Alright, so for my portfolio, I am including three songs from throughout the semester. Two of them are in Ableton, and one of them is in Logic. I'm providing you the audio file so you can hear everything in good quality. And yeah, so now I will dive in and show you some of the stuff I've been working on. Alright, so the first song I will present is called Heartstrings, and the reason I'm including this project in the portfolio is because I think that this is one of the more ambitious pieces that I took on this semester. And I really wanted to challenge myself with arranging string parts and figuring out how to use the string quartet pack in Ableton and layering the different MIDI samples on top of each other to get the, the notes to sound realistic as possible, like as if they were played by real string players. And I had a lot of fun arranging the string parts and um, doing some polyphonic stuff with the notes and the chords and stuff. And it really kind of came together just without really knowing where it was going to end up. And I'm pretty happy with how it ended up. Um, but so I started out with this melodic idea for the main section and for the intro, and I wanted to see if I could bring those pieces together and make one piece out of it, make one song out of it. Trying to make everything sound cohesive and not sound too much a, like three different songs juxtaposed together. That's not what I was going for. But I think that it came out pretty cohesive. And one of the things I made sure to do, which was some advice that I took from people in class, was keeping instruments, like trying to use the same sounds throughout. So especially for the strings, I felt like that was probably one of the most important sounds to keep constant throughout the piece. And the strings do change a little bit in like timbre. Like there's different sections where they might get louder, and I've made the hits sound a little bit different at certain points just to come through better in the mix, especially with all the other instruments when they kick in. So this rise section is pretty cool because when I added this guitar in, I felt like it really gave it a really interesting atmosphere, really dark atmosphere, and this reverb that I put in it, this large dark space, was really useful, and that was like the exact kind of sound I was looking for that. And the erosion helps a lot too with the guitar. It gives it a grittier feeling. The utility makes it wider, and the auto pan kind of makes it travel a bit in your ears. So yeah, so I will play portions of this and let you hear it. So one piece of advice I got uh, during the semester was I think it was from the letter C when I presented this project the day that he was in class, and he suggested something about changing the organ sound at the beginning, uh, and I do agree. I think that it kind of sounded maybe a little basic or something. It didn't have. It could have been more interesting. So I did. I was playing around with other sounds, other instruments, but I did uh, like the organ sound the best. But I found a different kind of organ. At first, it started out with a funky organ, and I actually ended up using an organ rough sound, and it's got a more gritty texture, and the chorus is pretty high on it, and the cabinet's pretty cool because that like kind of plays with the placement in your ears and like I think of it as like the Leslie speaker kind of, and like a Hammond organ or something like that. It's that type of an effect. And I automated the filter cutoff so that it gets grittier and louder and more, more pronounced as this section rises and as the action of the song kind of rises, and it builds up to this transition section, which it serves as a bridge uh, to bring you from the end of the rise into the main section without it being too abrupt. And yeah, I think that helped keep the piece sounding cohesive and making the certain parts flow into one another. All right, so the next song I will present is called "Love Will Light the Way," and I started this at the beginning of the semester, and I wanted to experiment with using a gate and side chaining the gate so that I could get like a different kind of rhythm and like have a pulse to it and have uh, the amount of control that you can have over the gating functions. And I really liked the way that sounded. Um, and it was triggered by this track, which is it's just a hi hat pattern that gets repeated, and that is what's triggering the pulse of the wavetable. Which, for this piece, I kind of think of this wavetable track as like the light, because it's called "Love Will Light the Way," and it ends with like this last note without the pulse on the last note, and that's like a real burst of light. That's how I kind of picture that as. And I like the way that it starts off with just the wavetable pulse, and then it builds up with the bass, and then and the drums get more complex, and and then it builds up and ultimately brings you into the first verse from there. And with the vocals here, um, I did these vocals after the vocals for "Searching the Sky," and I by that point I was working on improving my vocals from prior projects, just in previous months, just because I feel like that's been one of my weak parts with my music. So I've spent a lot of time trying to get the vocals to sound as good as I could. And one thing I was starting to do was use the voice box pack in um, in Ableton, and that really gave me a good starting point with with processing the vocals. And from there, I would adjust the EQ and the compression. And in this case, I added some slapback echo to the vocals, and an auto filter during the chorus, because the rest of the most of the other tracks during the chorus kind of fall into this auto filter cutoff realm, where it also the tempo also slows down. So with that, in addition to the auto filter uh, frequency stuff, it kind of really changes the feel and the uh, just the sound of that section. And so I wanted to cut off the vocals just slightly so that they could fit into that section as well, and kind of you fall into the chorus that way. But I wanted it to move as well, not have it be too stagnant. So that's why I used this automation to uh, to have the frequency move, and I used the Alt key or Option key function to curve it and everything, so that it could be just so that it could have that kind of um, a sound, just so that it could kind of bounce back and forth for the most part. And I'm happy with the way that came out. And this piece, I'm probably the most pleased with the way that this ended out of all the pieces I worked on this semester. I like the lyrics too, that developed throughout the semester. And yeah, so I think that I progressed for sure with vocals and processing vocals and making sure that everything fits in and trying to keep everything at an even volume, and just to keep it so that it's consistent and it sounds consistent throughout. So you can hear the difference between the vocals from the verse and the vocals in the chorus, and how it changes up slightly. Alright, so the last song I will present in the portfolio is it's called You're Intoxicating Me. It's a song that the composition was written in around September of last year, and I'd been developing it and revising it, especially the lyrics, throughout the last few months, ever since I first wrote it, really. So by the beginning of April, I got a version of it, of the lyrics and the song, the melody and chords that I was pretty pleased with, and I began to record it. But it was a very slow developing process. Took me, let's see, it took like, this is like 25 or so takes of just the piano part, and I comped everything together similar to the way in Ableton I comped things together with the vocals a lot. Um, so in Logic, I took the liberty of comping pretty much all these tracks, because it's a pretty efficient way to create something instead of just using one take. Especially for something all the way through, it's hard to get a 4-minute perfect take. So this was the best way I could do it, and I was pretty pleased with the way it came out. Um, Once again, the vocals are dynamic and condensers, um, mixed at different levels, and I also put different processing on each one, which is different. That's something new that I tried with this project. For the dynamic vocal, I put this Space Designer on, which is like a reverb, and I like the way that that gives you, um, a sense of space, but it only does it in on for that track, and it's panned 35 to the minus 35 to the left, so that it's in that ear, and the condenser one is 35 into the right ear, and that's got an echo effect on it, which once again is only mostly coming through the right ear. So it gives it a different kind of texture to the vocals. So I also um, sent the vocals to a bus to compress them and use parallel compression, which is something I like to do, especially with Logic and Pro Tools too, when I use Pro Tools. I like the way that I can balance between the uncompressed dry track, mostly dry track, and use the compressed signal together with it, and that's the same thing I did with the bass track too. And it really helps. It gives me more control over the way that uh, the levels sit in the mix, and the way that they can sit with each other, the the way that they can interact together. And I just like the way that uh, it helps the timbre kind of um, sound more natural, while also having the effects of the compression, the effects that you're looking for, having everything be mostly even and not too far apart in dynamics. It's undefined, 'cause I have seen it all before in a dream, as you repair my seams that have ripped in time, with a thread that's sewn so fine.